least 6 people are reportedly killed every day. Greater Accra, Ashanti and Eastern regions remain the 3 most crash-prone regions of Ghana. About 70% of road traffic deaths affect people between the ages of 16 and 55, the most productive part of our lives. The period between 6 and 10 p.m. is considered the most crash-prone period of the day, accounting for almost a third of all crashes. Pedestrians are the most vulnerable group of people when it comes to this group, with about 840 deaths out of the total of 2,000, or about 43%, nearly half of all deaths resulting from accidents. This means that every day, 2 pedestrians are killed on our roads. Nearly 60% of those are in the urban areas. With me in the studio is Kwame Kondia. He is the communications manager of the National Road Safety Commission, and I'm really wondering if all the time that we've been devoting to road safety on shows such as this one, such as Sunrise, talking, is having any impact at all. And I'm asking this because the second UN Global Road Safety Week and your National Pedestrian Safety Campaign are coming off in the first week of May. Just around the corner. Have we made any impact? We've been doing this for counting nearly 5 years.
Yes, good morning, and thanks for the opportunity to discuss these matters on this platform. In terms of impact, yes, it has made a lot of impact. As we always say, without the opportunity, the situation would have been much worse than it is today. But indeed, what we do is to consistently do an evaluation of these programs with the impact and possibly make adjustments in order for it to be very meaningful to our target audience. Over the period, the evaluation reports go to show that the level of awareness of these matters have gone up significantly.
Okay, now the reason I asked you this question, and I know it's a hard question for us to ask ourselves, because in a way I feel responsible for it as well, because it's a two-way conversation. We sit here in a nice studio on comfortable chairs, we talk about horrible things, we have good intentions, but do our actions lead to the desired outcome? I'm looking at the statistics here, Kwame. It says 73% of all these crashes that involve a pedestrian and a car occur whilst a pedestrian is crossing the road. 73%. So that means that each time one pedestrian is crossing the road today is going to die. That's what the statistic means. Now, 14% of these deaths occur when a pedestrian is simply standing by the side of the road. Standing, maybe playing if it's a child, trading if it's a vendor or a trader. And nearly 30%, 20% occur in the night where there are no street lights, where conditions, viewing conditions are relatively poor. What are we doing wrong, or what are we not doing at all that we should be doing?
Thank you very much. I think that for a start, when these crashes occur, the tendency is for us to consider safety as a passenger concern. But the reality, as you have rightly indicated, that the pockets of people who lose their lives in isolation put together makes a pedestrian the very critical group for us. What are issues that we seek to raise within the period, a 60-day period, starting with the Road Safety Week, is for all of us as a country to begin to make conscious efforts, decisions to do with road infrastructure and design.
Okay, what exactly is going to happen in this 60 weeks that you think can have measurable impact, other than the fact that we are talking about it again?
One, we think that at the close of the period, we should be able to make we should arrive at a definite situation where, as a country, we must, as a matter of necessity, say from henceforth, all new projects must have what we call the road safety audit, such that at the design and construction stage, we'll be sure that the pedestrian-related facilities are provided for.
For example,
you're talking about walkways. if you recognize from the figures that you just narrated, 14% get into the road environment, mainly because the design and construction have not provided for facilities for them to use the road, and invariably get into the road environment, and there's that level of collision. That is one. We think that we must make a strong statement on that.
Walkways. But now I'm reading here that driver inattentiveness.
Yes, I'm coming to that.
And overspeeding account for nearly 70%.
Yes.
So 70% are whilst pedestrians are crossing the road,
yes,
and about 70% is also due to the fact that drivers are not paying attention and are overspeeding at the same time. How would walkways, for example, help in any way?
That is just one. Okay. That is just one side of the coin. The second side, admittedly, is to do with the driver pedestrian relationship in traffic.
Shouldn't that be the first?
Yes, I was just trying to look at because in the long term, if we do not deal with the infrastructure issues, there's a tendency that that level of the problem might escalate. Secondly, as you rightly put it, we think that a certain level of disconnect between the driver and the pedestrian, for which reason either
drivers don't respect pedestrians.
Yes,
so let's say it as it is.
That is
most drivers,
yes,
generally speaking, don't respect pedestrians, because if you have a car, you feel a sense of power and well-being and achievement. It's even a status symbol, and it's an advantage over anyone who doesn't have a car. So aside of the fact that we know that the pedestrian is more vulnerable than we are, because we are protected as drivers by the metal of the car, when it comes to respect, I would put it to you, or I would suggest to you, as we have now learned to say, that most drivers in Ghana do not respect most pedestrians. Would you agree or disagree?
I agree with you perfectly on all fours of the assessment. That is why we seem to launch the Be Alert, Look Out for Other Road User campaign. We think that if drivers begin to consider pedestrians as part of the road environment, drivers will begin to appreciate that, yes, apart from the pedestrian crossing points, which have been made to allow for them to use the road, there's a tendency on the countryside where these facilities are not available for pedestrians to use the road at one point or the other. So if we are able to raise that level of consciousness among the driver population, whilst getting to the pedestrians to also get them to have a certain connection with the driver at the point of using the road, we are certain that we'll make some impact.
Great. So how do you propose to do this in a span of 60 days?
Well, we'll be doing a lot of media activation, very much like we're doing now. We intend to.
We're going to talk about it.
Yes, we'll talk about it. We have developed a number of documentaries that will show. We'll do a lot of outreach discussion, focus group discussion. We'll take the messages to the key target groups, the drivers, the road users who most of the times find themselves as pedestrians within the road environment.
Okay, Kwame, just pause for a minute, and I want to give you an example, and I want to ask you for your honest answer. Now, just imagine a situation in which you are asked to learn how to cook abenquine in a delicious and tasty manner, simply through dialogue, no demonstration. Nobody takes you by the hand, says, watch how I'm doing this. Okay, here's an example, or this and that, and these are the different ways, and these are the different results. What I'm asking is for more demonstrations, more interactivity, maybe just simple video clips. Do you think that would help?
Yes, I agree with you. I think that's part of what we'll be doing over the 60-day period. But Eric, in the regions where a lot of these implementation do happen on a daily, weekly basis, our regional volunteer stakeholder groups get to these target groups and physically do a demonstration as to how kids, for instance, can get into the environment and be safe. It happens very often, but within this period, there's a way we intend to intensify these efforts and bring them up in a limelight such that it will have a national appeal for all of us to begin to look at it.
Do you have a target? This fact about the pedestrian being the most vulnerable road user, like I said, it makes such good common sense, because on our roads the bigger your car, the more respect you have. So if you drive a huge articulator or a trailer truck, you get a lot of respect on the road from other road users. So by that logic, if you're a pedestrian, you get the least amount of respect and consideration, except where it is clear that you are in danger. But where the danger is not apparent, you are hardly even considered. You're expected to stay to your part of the road. 43% of all deaths, pedestrians. By what fraction do you want to reduce that? Because globally, pedestrians account for a quarter. In our case, we are nearly half.
Yep. We have a target to reduce this level of fatalities by 50% by end of year 2020. But any measure of reduction that we are able to achieve within this period will be appreciable, in the sense that it will offer an opportunity for us to draw some lessons, to be able to sustain the lessons that we draw within this period into the years the years to come. But if you look at the figures again, we used to have a two-prone areas. We talk of passenger and pedestrian safety issues. Over the last 3 years, there's been a consistent decline in the passenger proportion. We think that when we are able to energize as much efforts as possible within the 60-day period, we will be able to record a certain margin of reduction, and we'll pick up the lessons from there to be able to have a better sustainability plan.
So this be alert, look out for the road user. Who are you talking to? Who should be alert? Is it the pedestrian who accounts for 43% of the chance of death, or is it the driver?
We're talking to every road user, but the emphasis is on the driver and the pedestrian. From all the figures and all the data, I mean, one thing is clear, that most of the times that the pedestrian has been knocked down, there has been a disconnect in terms of communication. Either the driver is unable to establish better eye contact with the pedestrian, or the pedestrian is unable to establish that eye contact with the driver. So we think that if the driver is to respect the pedestrian as a road user and anticipate that he will come into the environment and will look out for him whilst in traffic, there's a higher chance that he wouldn't knock him down. The pedestrian, if he becomes responsible to be visible at night, to use the roads at appropriate locations, and in areas where you do not have these facilities, if it decides to establish the eye contact with the driver before he takes the first step.
Now, how important is that, to establish road eye contact on the road with the driver?
It's extremely important. Given
before you cross, if you're going to cross the road, make sure that you've got eye contact with the driver of the car that's coming towards you.
Yes, much as we want the drivers to be law-abiding, to slow down at approved areas like pedestrian crossing points, we concede that in many parts of our country we do not have the infrastructure, the pedestrian crossing points on almost every road. But in those sections, it will be important that the pedestrian would establish that eye contact.
Okay.
Before
time is running against us because we want to be able to prepare for our transmission of the
I get it.
Yeah, you get it. You understand what's coming after this. I don't want to preempt anything. But over the years, you've been advocating for a road safety audit program. How successful have you been in that regard?
Yes, to a very large extent, we have made some progress, but we think that a lot ought to be done. We think we must get to the stage where institutions that award contract must say it must become a part of the bidding process. We must get to the stage where the commission or another agency should be able to say, for the N1 highway, for instance, if it doesn't meet the specific safety requirements, there's no reason that it should be allowed for public accessibility. We must get to that stage. I would think that within the 60-day period, the advocacy on pedestrian safety issues should be such that we could get to that end situation where, as a country, we make that clear determination, so that all new projects, existing roads, will begin to have these infrastructure, these fixtures and facilities. For us, that is the starting point. Whereas we will continue to do the advocacy and education. As part of the process now, we are beginning to teach safety in schools. You are aware that we have designed textbooks and manuals for teachers and children in the basic schools. But that alone will not be enough to deal with the situation. You need to have the infrastructure in place. We need to teach the kids how to use them. When they grow, they may not depart from it. Whereas the police and other ancillary stakeholders who also support with enforcement, all put together, we are certain that this 43% that doesn't appear to be too good will reduce.
Okay, thank you very much. I've been talking to the communications manager of the National Road Safety Commission. Kwame Kodi has been my guest. The topic is pedestrian safety. Lots of nice posts coming in. Blessed and Stephen Redu thinking that I'm looking extra good this morning. Well, maybe I'll tell you a little secret about that later on. Joshua Forey said, Eric, it's all just because the road signs and the road rules, if I may, are not being observed by the drivers. And to add to that, they are not trained. Some do not know anything at all about road signs, road markings, and general road rules. Joshua Forey, you also say you want to wish the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana a happy birthday, and may God help him in the next 4 years. Greg Skillions, but then you're asking me when I'll interview Sir Kodia. Okay, I'm still practicing, my staccato speech, my rapid fire speech delivery for that interview, because I've got to keep up with Ghana's fastest rapper. In Shiraba, Lawrence Kete, you say, please, at times when a driver sees people on the zebra crossing, they will not even stop for people to pass. And you repeat that several times, so I see that it's important to you. Pogus Patrick, you're asking a question. Why is it that there are so many hit and run drivers? Most people can be saved. Do you think many people can be saved if they are taken care of in good time? And Blessing Blessed, that's a nice name. You said that drivers always drive carelessly, especially those who drive long vehicles and the big 207 buses. Now that dots the I and crosses the T of the earlier point I made. So I hope that something good comes out of this program, which is all about being alert and looking out for other road users.